Hello, everyone. If you're a new teacher staring at a giant stack of curriculum standards and feeling a little overwhelmed, then you are in exactly the right place. In this explainer, we're going to build a complete framework for your classroom planning step by step to turn that mountain of paper into a clear, manageable path forward. So let's start with a big question, right? How in the world do you connect that massive year-long curriculum to what you're actually doing with your students at, 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning? It can seem impossible, but trust me, the answer is all about having the right system in place. And here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with that big picture view, the yearly blueprint, and then we'll zoom in, piece by piece. We'll go from the big units to the daily lesson, all the way down to homework and how you check for understanding. It's all designed to build on itself, so you'll feel confident every step of the way. Okay, let's dive right in. We're starting at the highest level, the master plan for your entire school year. Getting this part right is absolutely crucial. It's not just about covering the content. It's honestly the best tool you have for managing your own workload and keeping your sanity. So the first piece of jargon you need to know is the butcher scheme. Now, don't let the name intimidate you. Just think of it as the master blueprint for the entire house you're about to build. It's your map for the whole year, making sure everything fits together and you don't get to May wondering how you're going to cram everything in. And here's what that looks like in the real world. You can literally map out your year, term by term. You can see here for a primary math class, we're starting with the basics in term 1, the foundations of arithmetic. Then we build on that with geometry, and finally data and measurement. It's a logical flow that makes sense. All right, so once you've got that high-level blueprint, the next job is to start breaking it down into smaller, more bite-sized chunks. This is where that big year-long vision really starts to feel like something you can actually teach. The process itself is pretty straightforward. You grab one of those big units from your blueprint, like our Introduction to Geometry example, then you smash it down into smaller topics. And finally, you put those topics in a logical order. So you wouldn't teach perimeter before you've taught identifying 2D shapes, right? Each topic becomes a stepping stone to the next. And now we get to the fun part, the daily lesson. This is where you're actually laying the bricks. It's where all that high-level planning becomes a real, tangible learning experience for your pupils. A good daily plan is honestly a teacher's best friend. Now, this template looks simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Look how everything connects. You start with a clear objective. What do I want my students to be able to do by the end of this lesson? That objective then dictates the classwork, the actual activity. The resources are just the tools you need to do it, and the assessment is how you check, hey, did we meet our objective? It's a perfect little loop. Let's be really clear here. The classwork, the hands-on, active stuff, that's where the learning happens. But the pupil's book or workbook is equally important. It's not just a place to stick worksheets. Think of it as their own personal portfolio of progress. It's the living record of their learning journey, where you can literally see how their understanding is growing. Okay, so the bell rings, but the learning doesn't have to stop. This is where we think about how to reinforce those new concepts. And that's the whole point of well-designed homework and workbook activities, to extend that learning beyond the four walls of your classroom. Now, the golden rule of homework is that its purpose is to practice what was taught in class, not to teach something brand new. It should never be a surprise. Good homework is focused, it's clear, it doesn't take forever to complete, and it directly supports the day's lesson. The goal is reinforcement, not frustration. So, we've planned the work and we've worked the plan, but that's only 2/3 of the job. Now we have to inspect the build. We need to check in and see how well that structure is holding up. In other words, what have our pupils actually learned? This is a distinction that can really trip up new teachers, so let's make it simple. Evaluation is what you do every single day, all day long. It's informal, it's walking around, asking questions, glancing at their work. It's a quick temperature check. The report, on the other hand, that's the formal summary, the document that pulls all those little evaluations together at the end of a term. And why is that constant evaluation so critical? Well, look at this number, 75%. The idea here is that most of what makes teaching effective isn't about perfectly following a script. It's about your ability to read the room, see what's working and what isn't, and adapt on the fly. That ongoing evaluation is your superpower as a teacher. So when you put it all together, you see it's not a straight line, it's a continuous loop. You plan, you teach, you evaluate. Then you report on that progress. And here's the most important part. You use what you learned during your evaluation to refine your plans for next time. What you see your students struggling with today, directly informs how you'll plan your lesson for tomorrow. I want you to hold on to this quote. Think of it as your teaching mantra. Your plans are not rigid scripts you have to follow no matter what. They're maps. They give you a destination and a route, but they also give you the freedom to take a detour when you see a more interesting path or a roadblock you need to get around. So the biggest thing to take away today is this. Great teaching absolutely starts with great planning, but it truly comes to life through flexibility and constant reflection. We've given you the blueprint. Now take a look at your own plans and ask yourself, based on what you know now, what's the first small adjustment you're going to make?